Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. The Northwest Territories government has announced that it'll be dissolving the Health Authority's Leadership Board. It replaced the council with a public administrator, who the government says can be more nimble than the Leadership Council. Jocelyn Chappelle joins us now with more on this. So Jocelyn, what do we know at this point?
Well, Megan, in today's news release, the government says the structure and role of the council is no longer a fit with the needs of the health and social services system. The council's 9 members basically operate as a board that manages the health authority. They are accountable to the Health and Social Services Minister, and they're supposed to direct the health authority's affairs and advise the minister on priorities and strategic direction. Now it will be dissolved as of December 16th and replaced with one administrator.
And do we know why they're making this change?
We don't know for sure. It's clear that the minister saw a need for change. Some reasons in the press release included increased pressures and challenges on the health and social services systems. This announcement also follows an Auditor General report into how the NWT went millions of dollars over budget for the Stanton Hospital Renewal Project, as well as Premier R.J. Simpson announcing a new team focused on reining in healthcare spending. MLA Julian Moore says that the new Healthcare System Sustainability Unit is not the reason for this switch to a public administrator, though. He thinks the switch could be a positive step forward.
Yeah, I would say tentatively hopeful. I mean, do I think one person is going to be able to bring about huge changes and fix everything in a year? Absolutely not. Do I think that this person could potentially be well positioned to start us in the right direction? I very much hope so.
Megan, Dan Florzone will be the new administrator. He'll be trying to find solutions in a simpler way. He spent 30 years in various health leadership roles in Saskatchewan and as a deputy minister for Nunavut's health department.
Okay, thanks for all your work on this, Jocelyn.
Okay, thank you.
In its own statement this afternoon, the Leadership Council said it's disappointed the change was made without prior consultation. However, they'll work to support a smooth transition. In a quote, Jerry Cheesy, current chair of the Leadership Council, said change is always challenging and he'd hoped for a different outcome, but he's proud of the role the council has played in advancing the health authority's goals. A Polytechnic university on Yellowknife's Tin Can Hill may be possible, but Aurora College says it needs $400 million to move forward. That was the message today when an environmental assessment for the proposed site was released. As the CBC's Nadir Hashmi reports, the project's future remains uncertain.
There are actually no next steps until the funding question.
In 2022, the city of Yellowknife signed an MOU designating Tin Can Hill as the intended location for a Polytechnic university. On Tuesday, the president of Aurora College says the environmental assessment results make Tin Can Hill a viable option. But there's still no estimated timeline for the campus construction. A GNWT representative said the report identified significant arsenic levels in several soil samples from the site. However, he said the contamination is manageable if properly treated.
The results of the assessment work at Tin Can Hill are not a cause for concern. Elevated arsenic in soil is known to be present in the Yellowknife area, particularly around the Olcon Mine and Giant Mine sites.
The GNWT had planned to transform Aurora College into a Polytechnic university by 2025. The college president says though it has been pushed for now, it'll still happen, even if the new campus is not built.
There's a misconception that one cannot happen without the other. This is not the case. This is a misnomer.
She said a new Yellowknife campus is just one part of the process. The next roadblock is securing a hefty $400 million funding.
However, it is quite a big ticket item in terms of funding. Once again, this is an estimate of $400 million for a new build on Tin Can Hill, and those monies have not been secured or determined or found at present.
James said the college is working on collaborating with the territorial and federal governments for co-investment partnerships, but currently has no information on potential funding from any other sources. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Licensing for the Kudzakaya mine in the Yukon has been put on pause again. The territory's appeal court recently ruled the Kaska Nation was not properly consulted on the project, specifically its economic feasibility. Jackie Hong explains.
Canada and the Yukon did not live up to their duty to consult and accommodate. That's according to a panel of Yukon Appeal Court judges. They've paused the permitting process on the Kudzakaya mine again and ordered consultation on its economic feasibility. It's the latest in a more than 2-year-long legal battle, and the second time the Crown has been ordered to redo consultation on Kudzakaya. The project is located in southeast Yukon on Kaska traditional territory. Ross River Dene Council went to court on behalf of Kaska Nation in 2022. That was after Canada and the Yukon first approved Kudzakaya to move into the regulatory phase. The Yukon Supreme Court sent the project back to consultation last year. It found the Crown did not properly consult on a letter from Kaska First Nations on the project. Ross River Dene Council appealed the decision, arguing the judge failed to recognize additional failed consultation. The appeal court did not say when the new consultation on economic feasibility has to happen, but acknowledging the delays, said the parties should meet as soon as possible. Jackie Hong, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The Yellowknife resident who filed a code of ethics complaint about a city councillor says she's disappointed by the end result. The Integrity Commissioner found that Kat McGurk broke the council's code of ethics by trying to get the city and 2 contractors to pay for a laptop McGurk had borrowed and lost. Council voted to censure McGurk, which is basically a public reprimand. But as the CBC's Luke Carroll reports, some say that's not enough.
Geraldine Maloney's partner was the owner of the laptop Councillor Kat McGurk misplaced. Maloney filed a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner and a civil suit.
Censure doesn't really mean anything at this point. They just say, we censure you, all right, we've done our job, moving on.
But a council's options for code of ethics violations are enforced by territorial legislation. They can only censure a councillor or remove them from one meeting. John Mascarin is a municipal accountability lawyer in Toronto. He says the NWT's legislation, compared to elsewhere in Canada, is really toothless.
I'd say minimal to the extreme, and you can certainly understand why someone who says, well, they have to abide by this, and I'm going to file a complaint, potentially put my name out there, and then that's it. That's all I get. It's pretty little comfort.
But Mascarin says some councils won't issue any discipline to avoid a worse relationship. So he credits Yellowknife for following the Integrity Commissioner's recommendation. In response to Maloney's disappointment, McGurk says they took accountability for their actions. Luke Carroll, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Arctic security is an increasingly hot topic as melting sea ice creates more access to the north. And countries like Russia and China are showing growing interest in the region. Experts say Arctic Indigenous communities are the key to Canada's Arctic security strategy. That's in reaction to Canada's new Arctic foreign policy announced last week. The policy includes collaborating with Indigenous communities in the region. And experts in transatlantic and defense policy say those residents are the eyes and ears for national strategy.
Engagements with these communities, continued protection and economic development of these communities is the best weapon we have, in a way, or the best tool we have to ensure that domain awareness and to ensure that visibility in a changing Arctic.
Leaders in those Arctic communities say they haven't heard from federal officials on how they fit into the strategy, but they say some work to strengthen military capacity is already underway, like expanding the airport runway in Nunavut. The Northwest Territories may soon have a new healing space for women. A new 60-bed facility will likely open in Fort Providence next fall. The Degagoti First Nation is leading the project. Ottawa is giving the First Nation over $7 million for the facility. The shelter will have almost 20,000 square feet of space. It'll be open to women, children, and the 2S LGBTQ+ community. Chief Michael Vandell says the focus will be on healing.
We'll be offering cultural programs, traditional healing practices, elders' guidance, those kind of stuff, school trauma, family violence. So it's really, things that all our small communities are facing these days, from residential, school, and other impacts, right?
Bendel says the shelter will only offer services to Fort Providence residents to start, but he's hoping they'll be able to expand to the whole NWT. An NWT MLA is pushing to get food banks set up in the communities he represents. He hopes it'll help Sawtoo residents deal with what he calls a cost of living crisis. The CBC's Leanie Lambrink has more.
More and more Canadians are relying on food banks like this one here in Yellowknife. But what happens if your community doesn't have one? That's something Sawtoo MLA Danny McNeely is trying to fix.
Our objective is to have a food bank in each of the Sawtoo communities.
McNeely convened a meeting in Yellowknife recently to talk about the idea. He invited representatives from the Sawtoo region. Food Banks Canada and Nutrition North are also planning to help make it happen, though it's still in its early stages.
We're going to be designing a supply chain to move groceries from point A to point B in each community. So there's still a lot of work to do before we can actually have a warehouse and a shop set up in each community offering these staples.
We want to make sure that food is selected by the communities themselves, as well as involvement in hunting and harvesting activities.
McNeely says the idea is essential, driven by what he calls a cost of living crisis in the Sawtoo. Cancelled barges have been driving up the price of food and fuel in the region. This Fort Good Hope resident has seen those challenges firsthand.
10-ounce steak, which is about $29 back home. I saw one elder looking at the price and he said, no, I'm not going to buy this, too much.
The next step is for Nutrition North and Food Banks Canada to visit each of the Sawtoo communities. McNeely is in the process of setting that up. He's trying to organize a tour of the region by Winter Road for both organizations in February. A step forward in getting a place like this set up in more communities in the Northwest Territories. Leanie Lambrink, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Iqaluit Food Centre is taking a hit because of the Canada Post strike. The centre provides 350 to 550 free meals to the community each day. Because of the strike, the centre won't be able to mail out fundraising postcards, and it'll have to receive some supplies and food through cargo, which is more expensive.
It's going to delay our fundraising efforts, so that's one effect that it will have. We have to spend more time on being creative on how we access things or substituting some of the products that we use for things that we can get locally. So it's just not as smooth.
Murdoch Flowers hopes the strike will end soon so that business can return to normal. Yellowknife is losing one of its fast food restaurants. The owners of the A&W Yellowknife franchise announced that they're closing on December 31st. The fast food joint has long been a staple of downtown Yellowknife. It's operated under its current management since 2010. The owners said in a Facebook post that they were facing challenges to operating, but didn't specify what the issues were. They thanked the community for their trust and support. This is CBC North on your smart TV because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device, all for free. It's called the CBC News North streaming channel. You can see your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News North, your local news streaming channel, is now available.
This is a proposed corridor for multiple pipeline projects.
You're crossing our territory on two ends of your pipeline. Who gave you permission?
Pipelines break of the pipelines would destroy water and everything in it.
They got to come through us first.
This is an immediate evacuation order for all Coastal GasLink employees. I feel like we are at work. It's just all been building up to this point.
Yenta on the Passionate Eye. Watch free on CBC Gem.
If the car comes with the deal, I'm in.
Cheers, Dragons!
I look forward to fighting you on many a deal.
And we look forward to meeting you. Dragon's Den. Watch free on CBC Gem.
They reported a shipment of cocaine stolen 2 weeks ago.
We all have our vices, Detective.
Oh, you find that surprising?
Dust, noise, and lowlifes.
Bloody hell.
Jeremy Tunraluk is the new president of Nunavut Incorporated. He won Monday's election with more than a third of the vote. This was the moment it was made official earlier today. Tunraluk beat out 3 other candidates to be the first president elected since Inuktitut's 8-year tenure. Tunraluk says Kutiuk has done a great job in the role.
It's going to be tough to fill her shoes as she's been around for a while. But at the same time, I worked closely with Aruki in the last 4 years when I was the Secretary-Treasurer of KYA. And I look forward to actually seeing her in the near future and making sure that her legacy continues on through NTI.
According to NTI, voter turnout for the election was around 67%. It was a big increase from the last presidential election in 2021, where only 17.5% of eligible voters cast a ballot. Staying in Nunavut, Baker Lake's Mayor Kevin Inuktitut resigned as of today. He says his role as mayor was supposed to be a part-time position, but it's become full-time. Inuktitut says high expectations and stress in the position were taking a toll on his mental health. He also says balancing the role along with his other job and family responsibilities was too challenging. In the NWT, 10 hamlets held elections on Monday. Let's take a look at some of those results. In Fort Providence, incumbent Mayor Danny Bolio is returning to his job. Bolio won with 170 votes. In Uluhaktok, Pat Klingenberg won with 51 votes. Klingenberg got just 5 votes more than Laverna Klingenberg, the other candidate. And in Sax Harbor, Donna Kiogak won with 21 votes. Mayors were also acclaimed in Enterprise, Fort Liard, Fort McPherson, and Polytechnic. Sigachik also went to the polls to elect its first mayor. Sean James Roland Van Loon won with 32 votes. That's according to information the returning officer posted on social media. People in Sigachik voted to become a hamlet this spring. Prior to that, the mayor spot and 2 of 5 council positions were automatically filled by the band council. The commanding officer of the Yukon RCMP is retiring in February. Chief Superintendent Scott Shepard joined the force in 1989. Over 3 decades, he worked in general policing, undercover work, critical incidents, and officer development. Shepard took command of M Division in 2016. In an interview about his retirement, Shepard talked about building relationships with the Yukon government and First Nations. He also discussed the toxic drug crisis and voiced skepticism about the effectiveness of harm reduction.
We're almost creating a bit of an industry around this whole idea of harm reduction, and I don't think it's achieving what it, at least not yet, it's not achieving what it's intended to achieve. And, then when people start entering into the discussion about decriminalization, then the hairs on the back of my neck really begin to stand up.
Shepard says gangs that operate across the country have a presence in the Yukon. He says people will need alternatives to crime through housing, education, and jobs. There was a celebration in Iqaluit recently for the launch of Microsoft's Inuktitut translation tool. The project was a collaboration between the government of Nunavut and Microsoft. The tool offers a text-to-speech function that allows devices to turn conversations and documents from English to Inuktitut speech. Users can choose between a male or female AI voice option. The project was developed using thousands of government documents and several Inuktitut audio recordings from various organizations.
In just Canada, there's about 40,000 people, and in Nunavut, there should be about 30,000 people that speak in Inuktitut. Even though that is not a lot, we now have technology that we can use to help us. I am very happy about it.
Microsoft and the Nunavut government say they've finished the Baffin dialect, and Inuktitut is expected to be completed in 2025. Well, despite coming in third place, the Nain volleyball team is celebrating after making history by playing 2 divisions higher than they are generally qualified for. Heidi Adder has more from Labrador.
It was a celebration in St. John's. The Nain teenagers won third, but the pride from the stands made it feel like first. Jenshaven Memorial School was one of 13 schools at last weekend's tournament. However, they were the smallest team.
It was intense. All the games were close. We played 7 games and 5 games went third set.
This was the best provincials we've ever been to, and I loved every game.
Volleyball provincially is broken into divisions based on school population to have tournaments be fair. Smallest schools play in A, slightly larger in AA, until the largest schools play in 4A. School Sports Newfoundland and Labrador says Nain is the first AA Labrador school to play against the largest schools in the province. Parents and basically the entire community watched from afar, with Inuit from Nain now living in St. John's, live streaming the games so everyone in Nain could watch.
It's just because we're small doesn't mean we're not mighty. Like these boys have always been true champions. Like even if they didn't place first, like they show true pride and all their heart. They put everything into every game they play.
With their small but mighty team of 8, the boys won the Best Sportsmanship Award. Barber hopes the whole experience is something they can remember for years to come.
I hope it opens their minds to realize that they can go that far too. Like if some of them are finishing school this year and maybe they want to go and further their education to places like cities like St. John's or even further, like I hope they realize that it's not too big for them. They can go.
Now that they've gotten a taste, the boys hope to keep playing up divisions in the future.
We have the heart for it.
We got the passion for it.
We may not have the height, but we have the heart.
Yeah.
Heidi Adder, CBC News, Happy Valley, and Goose Bay.
What a big accomplishment. Huge congratulations to that team. There was a milestone event at Yellowknife's movie theater last night. The screening of the Filipino movie Hello, Love Again was sold out. It's one of the highest grossing films in the Philippines. And the movie theater owner here says it is the fastest he's ever seen tickets sell out. We stopped by before the showing.
So can everyone scream and say hello, love again?
This is like the biggest surreal moment for us because this is one of the first Filipino cinema movies that are coming to Yellowknife.
In Edmonton, Catden is here in Yellowknife. Thank you.
Mixed emotions, like seriously, in love, everything. Like I feel like I just fall over and over again.
It's basically showing a young Filipina woman who is called an OFW, so overseas foreign worker.
Marie! Nandiyan si Joy! Saan galing?
And so this is basically starts out with having someone come from the Philippines to another country, just starting out their lives and kind of navigating living in a foreign country, and while also being homesick. And so this is what resonates with everyone because this is literally our livelihood. This is our story. This is the story of my father, my mother, and so it's just kind of really cool to see that everyone here is kind of like really excited for this movie because this is telling everyone's lives. This is basically like the love, the sacrifice that everyone has, and so it just means really a lot to us that this movie is here representing our story.
This is the first time we've done a Filipino film, and now it seems
We should have been doing these all along. Due to the large size of the community up here, there seems to be a lot of demand for it. I received an email from the president of the association on a Wednesday asking me if it would be possible to book this film because there seemed to be a lot of interest up here in the Filipino community. On Thursday, I had it unbooked. On Friday, I let them know that it had been booked, and Saturday afternoon it sold out in 2 hours.
So we are very, very lucky and fortunate to have Capitol Theatre as long as Chris Wood to really support us, because all he said was all you need to do is ask. And he was mentioning that and talking to our Filipino community at our Christmas gala, and so it meant a lot for us that he was there to kind of share with us, and that makes us feel welcomed, especially we have a huge and a large Filipino community here as well.
I'd like to say that we're just overwhelmed by the response to this movie and other movies. I had no idea there was such a demand, and we can see from the audience that we have here today that it's just overwhelming.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
Which insects are serially monogamous?
I'm just curious.
Can love help us live longer?
I feel alive!
Does heartbreak make music better?
I love this music.
Could AI compose the next masterpiece of our time?
Robot composers conducting robot music.
Do you really need to wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming? And why is something as big as time kept in something as small as a watch?
Whoa, that's heavy.
When you get curious, you get CBC.
This is CBC North on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Local news and weather on your connected TV or favorite device. CBC News North, streaming now.
I think my dislike is warranted.
What was Amy calling it? The beef wars?
You don't tell me anything. You don't share your feelings, open up about your past.
It's not that simple, Amy.
They reported a shipment of cocaine stolen 2 weeks ago.
We all have our vices, Detective.
Oh, you find that surprising?
Dust, noise, and lowlifes.
Bloody hell.
Heart is pounding.
This is very hard to do.
We both know it's not an easy task.
The Great Canadian Baking Show. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Is this what happened last time?
It's possible this is worse.
This is not the kind of suspense I like.
If you choose family, you can never go wrong.
They reported a shipment of cocaine stolen 2 weeks ago.
We all have our vices, Detective.
Oh, you find that surprising?